Hi, today we're reacting to a YouTube video called Trump's Tariffs on Canada, Economic Pain or Long-Term Gain. It's a video by Bloomberg Television that I've discovered recently. They seem to interview people that get me very upset, which I guess that's kind of the point. Let's go take a look.
An hour north of the line dividing the U.S. and Canada, in a small town called Knowlton, the cross-border relationship feels fragile.
We love the American people, but we're also defensive about our economy and want to support Canadian business, which we feel might be under attack right now.
Having family in the United States as well makes things a little precarious right now.
Since President Trump imposed new tariffs on imports from Canada, the relationship has soured. Canadian imports from the U.S. are down, and the nation slipped from being the largest buyer of U.S. goods to number 2, behind Mexico.
It's funny because he says, because of the new tariffs that have been imposed, which ones are these? So is it when it was 25, 35, 10, 50? Where are we at now? Oh yeah, that's right. It was struck down by the Supreme Court. So are we at 10? I don't know anymore. It's hard to keep track. Here's Mark Carney.
Canadians know that our old comfortable assumptions that our geography and alliance memberships automatically conferred prosperity and security, that assumption is no longer valid. We are rapidly diversifying abroad. The past few days, we've concluded new strategic partnerships with China and Qatar.
Although Carney is optimistic about Canada's economic agenda, February's jobs report paints a bleaker picture. The country shed the most jobs in more than 4 years last month, sending unemployment up to 6.7% from 6.5% in January.
Okay, those numbers really suck. Those numbers really suck. I think the world has been plunged into economic chaos by the American government, and even more with what's going on in Iran. Oh my God, it's hard to believe. Hard to believe. You know, I used to think maybe we're living in a simulation. Now it's confirmed. Things can't be this crazy. And it's just hard to believe we're here. Let's go back and listen to this a little bit.
We're all going to lose around 2% of our GDP because of the new trade environment. That includes the United States. When I say 2%, for somebody, it's 100% of their livelihood.
Stephen Polish succeeded Mark Carney as governor of the Bank of Canada and is now a special advisor at Canadian business law firm Osler.
Let's talk a little bit more about the loss. Where do we see it now?
Oh, you see it in autos, you see it in steel, you see it in aluminum, you see it in copper, and you see it in the forestry sector. These are sectors that are deemed, really strategically important.
As U.S. tariffs weighed on Canadian exports for much of the year, real GDP contracted in 2 of the 4 quarters of 2025, and for the year increased by just 1.7%, the slowest pace of annual growth since the economy shrank during COVID in 2020.
But right now, you still encounter that belligerence. Belligerence. But right now, you still encounter that belligerence at the grocery store, looking for the thing not grown in the United States. Or, well, look, Mexican vegetable versus U.S., California. People are still doing that.
Some Canadians say they feel betrayed by the U.S., with more than half of respondents in a Political poll saying the country is no longer a reliable ally.
What do you think? What do you think? Is the U.S. no longer a reliable ally? I don't know if ally is even the word now. The way we treat NATO's been treated and disparaged by the Trump regime. My God, how he's still going on about how the U.S. needs nothing from NATO, except I guess when 9/11, when our Canadian troops went to die for you, but you need nothing. It's amazing the level of narcissism, and I think now the U.S. president is fully believing his lies. He fully believes them. It's amazing how we'll hear rhetoric from the right, the American right, where they're upset that, I even heard somebody recently saying that, there was only 2 countries that put reciprocal tariffs when the crazy tariffs came out and during Liberation Day with those made up numbers, unicorn points or something. And this person was saying, there were 2 countries that put in retaliatory tariffs, China and Canada. And he said, Washington's going to remember. What the heck are you talking about? Washington's going to remember. My surprise was that the EU was just, no problem. They were just going to, the EU were just going to try to appease Trump, thinking that appeasement was the way to work. And that's been tried, peace in our times and so on. But appeasing Trump has been tried by the EU for a year now. It hasn't worked. Every time he's given something and he guarantees that, okay, I'm going to stop bugging you now for a while, the next day the deal is broken and he'll come back at you. We see what's going on in Iran and the Iran. Nobody. I'm not saying Iran are the good guys in any way. I don't think the regime in Iran are the good guys in any way. They still want to fund terror around the world, and that's what they want to do. But the one of the representatives from Iran was saying that, two negotiations were going on when the Americans attacked Iran. While negotiations were going on, they attacked Iran. So this representative from Iran was saying, how do we trust anything now? And, it's not just Iran. The rest of the world is, how do we trust anything that the Trump government says? Because they just changed their mind like they change underwear. It's absolutely crazy. Another thing about Iran, the Gulf of Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz, everybody knew that was going to be a thing. Every simulation, every war game planned out for the last, 100 years was saying exactly that this was going to happen. And suddenly we're surprised that allies are hit in Saudi Arabia and so on. It's crazy. But the Iranians need to save face now. And America needs to save face. So there's a problem. And the Iranians also want to make the West suffer enough that they're not attacked again in 4 months or 4 years or 2 years or whatever. And when they were attacked a year ago by Trump, and he was saying, or 6 months ago or whatever, and he was saying, we destroyed all of their nuclear capability. That was a lie then. And we see it now, but nobody remembers, it seems to me. Apparently, they have enough enriched uranium for a dozen bombs. I don't know how enriched it is, though, but definitely enough to make dirty bombs. And dirty bombs are much easier to make. Dirty bombs are just highly enriched toxic uranium or plutonium or whatever it is, packed with traditional explosives like dynamite. So you just put one of those in a suitcase and blow it up on top of the Empire State Building out a window. And the toxins go all over the place and kill people. Not very complicated. In the port of New York on a container ship, But, and even the World Health Organization is starting to putting together contingency plans for nuclear dangers because we were talking about dirty bombs. Well, America is bombing their nuclear enrichment sites. So how do we know that they haven't hit this nuclear material and it's all over the place in the atmosphere right now and heading towards, Pakistan and India? Oh, really funny too. When there was a representative calling, funny and tragic, was calling Trump's assertion that they negotiated because they apparently they haven't negotiated, haven't talked to him. He's just trying to spin stuff so that the stock market recovers a bit. And the Iranians were saying it's fake news. I thought that was the most ironic thing I've ever heard, calling Trump stuff fake news. Pretty funny. Missiles. Some people are saying, hey, we got to do something now, or the Americans are saying we got to do something now. The EU should be involved because the missiles can now reach the EU countries from Iran. They can if they don't have a warhead. Those missiles can't do that can't get that far with any sort of a warhead at all. They barely make it. Barely make it part way.
What are CEOs saying? What are they thinking at this point?
Well, they remain very cautious, would say, in areas where trade matters the most. There's
CEOs I talk to remain very cautious. Yes, don't know where to put their money, don't know where to invest. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what the market's going to look like. Are things up or down? Trump can decide to say something tomorrow that'll tank the stock market, and the next day we'll say something that'll bring it right back up. I don't know. The price of gas is, the price of the barrel of oil is about $100 now. Iran wants to get it up to $200 a barrel. And they very well could do that. It's absolute denial to think that it can't get there. The American government is suffering from its own hubris. Um, During the British Japan War in 1900 something, the British thought that they could sink the Japanese ships, without even worrying about it. But they were destroyed because they thought they were the best at everything. And now, the Americans are kind of stuck in the same kind of thing. I'm sure Trump was told by Mossad, allegedly, in my opinion, that the war be over in 5-6 days. Don't even worry about it. The regime will fall. Oh, and that's another thing. What is this war for? Well, it's to get rid of the regime. Oh no, it's to get rid of nuclear weapons. Oh no, it's to get rid of the missiles. Oh no, it's to send a signal for this. And every day there's a new reason for the war, but nothing clear, nothing explained. It used to be these wars were not, even if they weren't legit, there was at least a semblance of an effort to make them look legit. Now that's not even there anymore. That's not even there. And that the American population just doesn't seem to care.
They remain very cautious, would say, in areas where trade matters the most. They're essentially still frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the type would be just keep the lights on, do our maintenance spend, keep our powder dry.
The truth is we need to be more competitive. We need to be more productive. This is not a unique problem to Canada.
Goldie Hyder is the CEO of the Canada Business Council.
Prime Minister Carney always likes to emphasize that when it comes to the marginal effective tax rate, the Canadian price is Canadian rate is the lowest in the G7. Those kinds of things inspire confidence for businesses to be able to deploy capital. Otherwise, you're going to see a lot of chilling and freezing of the capital.
I mean, if you had to compare Canada to the U.S. is booming. I have never seen more robust demand.
The U.S. is booming. Apparently, manufacturing jobs are down. So I'm not sure. What's booming is you can look at the stock market, yeah, but it's about to crumble. I mean, the economy is about to crumble because of the price of gas. Yeah, and it seems to be it's a real rich person's view that everything is booming because, again, there aren't more jobs created. The little guy just doesn't have a chance. So many millions of people now off healthcare, off the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, which they didn't know was the same thing.
We need to resolve it. All right. I understand Prime Minister Carney, and he's our Prime Minister, so I've got to stand behind the leadership of our country. But we have to have a healthy trading relationship with the U.S. It is not going to be replaced by other countries. We can't just keep poking them in the eye.
We can't keep poking them in the eye? What? We can't keep poking them in the eye. If anything, all we want is fair trade. All we want is, again, to pull our weight and to be recognized. And wow. We can't poke them in the eye. I don't know who's been poking who. Not that kind of poking, but you know what I mean.
We can't just keep poking them in the eye and telling them we don't need you and standing there at Davos pretending that these mid-market or mid countries are going to band together against the U.S. Every one of them's in the back door trying to sign a deal with the U.S. It's not going to happen. It's the greatest economy in the world. It's the market that everybody in the world wants to be in. And we're right next door to it with the longest border in the world next to it and biggest trading relationship. And we're saying, oh, we're going to move on?
Is that what we're saying? We're going to move on? We're just saying we're going to hedge our bets a little bit. We're going to diversify. Is this guy American or Canadian? What's going on here? I think that, we have to protect ourselves because once again, we can be swallowed up in a second by the U.S. if they wanted to crash us economically, of course. I think Mark Carney, whether you like him or not, is going around the world to get investment partnerships, which are very important to have and we need to have because we want to do some development here. We need to get some development happening. I mean, is it this guy who's saying that we're not as productive as we need to be? That's true. That's true. We need to get our GDP up. We need to get some really good investments and we know we can do it. We've done it before and we'll do it again. Let's go back to what he has to say.
When you sit there and oh, we're going to make it the 51st state. Look, people got to relax and people have to calm down.
But it makes us realize when we have comments like that, it makes us realize who we're dealing with. How do we let this guy has no class? He has no plan. He's just a schoolyard bully who's been throwing his weight around and having lawyers protect him his whole life. So 51st state, no, we're okay. It's okay for us to get upset about that because we see what he did immediately after about Greenland and then Venezuela and now Iran and soon Cuba. The frig. Nobel Peace Prize winner. Come on. It's absolutely insane. Okay, let's go back to this. I don't like this guy very much, though, to be honest.
You don't feel insulted by the president as a Canadian?
No, I've got thicker skin. I mean, you can't get insulted like that and turn that into a global trading fight. Read in between the lines. I'm telling you, I believe with everything in my heart that if President Donald Trump, had the right relationship with Canada, a fair trading relationship, and resolve some of these issues, he'd put his arms around Canada and hug them and welcome them into the family because he would feel secure that we've got a family that's working together for the greater good of North America.
Anyone who knows anything about Trump, there is no such thing as a win-win deal. There is no such thing. He wins, other people lose. So for him to embrace us and to love us, we would have to just give him everything. Give him everything and then more. I don't know where this guy's getting his information from. Maybe he just hasn't watched TV in a while or gets his news from Facebook.
Canadians like Americans. I think Americans like Canadians, and we'll get through this.
Okay, so here's some comments I thought were interesting that we should share. What Bloomberg did not say in this video: Zeckelman Industries provides steel tubing to the U.S.-Mexico border wall. A Zeckelman Industries subsidiary, Wheatland Tube, donated $1.75 million to the America First Action Super PAC to elect Donald Trump. A financial maneuver considered questionable for a foreign citizen. Oh, look at that. Here's another one. This mess was created by Trump, not Canada. Yeah, I have to concur. Zeckelman is not representative of the average Canadian, even a little. I have to agree, once again. Zimmerman no doubt supports Trump and Netanyahu. Money first, no soul, just balance sheet. Screw them, and Trump too. I don't use foul language, but I understand the sentiment. I can assure you this guy speaks for not many Canadians, even the ones that run large businesses. He thinks Trump would embrace us with open arms. After we do what exactly? Seems to me we've tried an awful lot to make this guy happy, and it does absolutely nothing. What would a new agreement mean? The current agreement is one he called the greatest agreement ever and is a signatory to. Anything that man signs is worthless. Sorry to break the big secret. Yeah, nobody knew this one. Another one, Zeckelman is delusional to think Trump would ever be fair to Canada. Yeah, not fair to anybody. Told you, it's not a win-win. It can never be a win-win. Another one, you're not getting it. Trump showed Canada a potential future 30, 40 years down the road when another like-minded leader with cultish power and no sense of respecting others decides a sovereign attack of another nation has a lot of upsides. We're preparing now for the potential future as well. Sound ridiculous? Trump and everything he represents, his history, his emotional misalignment, was elected into office twice. The guardrails of democracy have been taken away. Very well said. Very well said. All right, so I'm not sure we learned much today, but we kind of got our blood pressure up and yeah, maybe we did learn something. Once again, if you like this, please click on like, share, subscribe, comment, click on notifications. Share this with anybody you think would enjoy the channel. We're trying to grow it, of course. This has been Canadian Shields. I'm Pierre Shields. Go play outside.